Governor, we want to thank you so much for giving us your time today. We understand that circumstances sort of intervened and prevented you from being with us in person. So thank you so much for taking time to talk with us.
Well, first of all, I apologize that I couldn't be there. It was one of the things I was really looking forward to. Unfortunately, we had to have a special session to address a mid-year deficit, and when you look at the calendar as to when the regular session starts, and you know, even considering things like when Mardi Gras falls, so that you can get the maximum attendance and attention on this issue, this was the window of time that was best to do it. And so we have a 10-day session that'll wrap up on the 22nd of February. But unfortunately, that meant that I couldn't be with you all in person, so I apologize for that, but I'm very excited about the work that you all and everyone with United Way is doing.
With so many communities across the state still suffering from the devastating floods that occurred this past summer, please update us on what's taking place in the recovery efforts and the work that you're doing with our congressional delegation.
Well, we are moving as fast as we can. In fact, we've exceeded every deadline that we've been given by Housing and Urban Development out of Washington, D.C. in terms of preparing an action plan, submitting that action plan for their approval for the first $438 million that was appropriated in September. We also have a second action plan for the money, the $1.2 billion that was appropriated in December that we'll be submitting very shortly. Unfortunately, even though the money has been appropriated, you can't get it to spend, to invest in the recovery effort until the action plans are approved and the line of credit is established. Now that's going to happen really soon, and we are working very hard. In fact, I met with Housing and Urban Development last week. They don't even have a new secretary yet, but the new chief of staff met with me last week and our team. I believe there's a very good working relationship there. Again, we're ahead of every deadline. In fact, we're ahead of where we've ever been in terms of accessing the dollars, but it is so frustrating for me and for the people of Louisiana to know that this flood happened in March and in August of last year, and we don't yet have the dollars. They are going to be available to us, and we believe we have a very good action plan that we developed as part of the Recovery Task Force, where we had members from all over the state of Louisiana, including Mayor President Joe Robideau.
In times of disaster and even non-disaster, we realize that government can't meet the need of every individual. United Way of Acadiana was here before, during, and after the Great Flood of 2016 for the people of our community. So what advice do you have for individuals on the role of nonprofits in making our communities a better place to live?
Well, first of all, United Way of Acadiana has been great. And the simple fact of the matter is it's sort of unfortunate because we have had so many disasters, we have a lot of practice and we're getting better. We're never going to be perfect, but we're getting better. That's state government as well. I will tell you that when it comes to the state police, the National Guard, Wildlife and Fisheries, Fire Marshal's Office, GOSEP, we have some of the best in the entire country. And that's great because when you need them, you want the best. But the reason they're the best is because we need them too often. And it's the same with groups like the United Way of Acadiana. But we do appreciate the fact that you are as good as you are and that you are as responsive as you are. But going forward, we would just ask that you be in communication, have these networks established, because when, for example, going back to the August flood, that was not a named storm. We didn't track that storm coming across the Gulf of Mexico. It wasn't a hurricane like we've had in the past. And while we were expecting a heavy rain event from the forecast, nobody forecast what actually happened in enough time to where we could prepare for the enormity of that disaster. So being ready and making sure that our volunteer networks are put together and that there's good communication and that you know how to respond and that you plug in as quickly as possible with local and state government to see where the needs are that they can't address right away. Because there were many people, for example, who had a home that was too heavily damaged to benefit from the Shelter at Home program because it was going to cost more than $15,000 to make their home safe, secure, and habitable. But with some work from a volunteer group that would go in and do part of the work, the total cost with that home could be brought below $15,000, and then they would be eligible to get in the shelter at home program. But we as a state government had to marry up those homeowners with volunteers to make that work. And we were successful, but it's always a little harder than you want it to be. But the better we can prepare together in advance, the better the communication, the networking is, knowing which volunteers are going to show up, which capabilities, because not every organization is going to do everything. And then we can run that effort even more smoothly going forward. And so just like we have lessons learned from every disaster, you know, the United Way of Acadiana, the Red Cross, every one of these groups can do that as well. The one thing that I have been continually amazed at and inspired by in my first year as governor is the degree to which Louisianans take care of Louisianans. And it happens on an individual level, and it certainly happens with organizations like the United Way of Acadiana. I want to thank you all for what you have done and what you continue to do. And going forward, what I know, unfortunately, you're going to be called upon to do many times over, but your willingness to work hard and make sure that you all are prepared and that your donor base is well aware of what you're doing and that they remain engaged and generous. I just appreciate everything that you're doing.
Please accept this bucket as a reminder of all the work that was done and is still being done to help the people of Louisiana recover.
Thank you very much to the Bucket Brigade and the United Way of Acadiana. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.